Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Super Mario Bros. 2. In the last part, we ended off World 2 before going through the rest of World 3, and now we're in World 4, which is, ice level. Ice physics all over the place on these ice blocks, and, you might remember earlier, I mentioned the game can feel a bit slippery sometimes. That feeling is multiplied when you're on these. It's also that they debut these weird mushroom-like enemies whose only goal is to ice physics into touch damage you. I warn you though, there was a bunch of vegetables you saw on the way up here. There is a formula for that area. However, not only do I think there's not a mushroom over there from memory, but when you get out of the subspace, it's very likely that you are going to get hit by one of those enemies right after leaving the door, so either take a cheap hit or die, and neither is that fun. Also, I believe those enemies are called flurries. Either way, what's unique about World 4 is that two of its levels, you hear the Birdo music very early on in them, like this. But you actually have a pretty solid chunk of level left before you actually find Birdo. Which I like, though these Shy Guys on cannons are kind of worrisome. Now, while we continue through the rest of this level, something I've actually forgotten to do by this point is actually read the storyline from the manual. Because it does add a few more things to the intro story thing we got back in part 1. One evening, Mario had a strange dream. He dreamt of a long, long stairway leading up to a door. As soon as the door opened, he was confronted with a world he had never seen before, spreading out as far as his eyes could see. When he strained his ears to listen, he heard a faint voice saying, "Welcome to Subcon, the land of dreams. We've been cursed by Warden and are completely under his evil spell. We've been waiting your arrival. Please defeat Warden and return Subcon to its natural state. The curse Ward has put on you in the real world will not have any effect on you upon you here. Remember, Ward hates vegetables. Please, help us." At the same time that was heard, a bolt of lightning flashed before Mario's eyes. Stunned, Mario lost his footing and tumbled upside down. He awoke with a start to find himself sitting up in his bed. To clear his head, Mario talked to Luigi, Toad, and Princess, not even a name drop about her, about the strange dream he had. They decided to go to a nearby mountain for a picnic. After arriving at the picnic area and looking at the scenery, they see a small cave nearby. When they enter this cave, to their great surprise, there's a stairway leading up and up and up. It is exactly like the one Mario saw in his dream. They all walk together up the stairs and at the top find a door just like the one in Mario's dream. When Mario and his friends in fear open the door, to their surprise, the road that he saw in his dream spreads out before him. So that's why we're in the land of Subcon. Either way, we're in World 4-2, which is actually what I think is the hardest level in the game. I have a lot of issues platforming around on these whales, and something you don't quite see there is their water jets actually hurt you if you're not standing directly on top of them, so watch out for that. Another notable thing, you may have seen a jar, rather a pot towards the end of that entire stretch that seemed kind of randomly placed on top of, I think even a whale. The formula I got at the start of that screen, if you bring all the way to there, you can get in there, and I believe that will warp you to World 6. So, yeah, that's another warp zone. I think those might be the only two warp zones in the game, but I might want to confirm that. Honestly, by this point, Birdo becomes less and less of an annoyance throughout the game as you continue. Because you just get so used to dealing with them. The big issue with Birdo isn't so much Birdo themselves, but sometimes the arrangements they give you when trying to fight them. Like, there's some times where you're constantly over pits and you need to carefully time picking up the eggs and such. It can get annoying and actually kind of scary. Let's see. Where else is there some warp zones in the game? There's one somewhere in World 3-1, I believe, in the level with the waterfall and all the clouds. Oh, and also, yeah, hide Birdo very early on. You actually need to jump on Birdo's egg and get flown to the rest of the stage. There's a warp zone in World 5-3, I believe, which will take you to World 7. I forget where that is, though. I believe there's also a glitch that allows you to jump, a double jump, rather. I believe it entails running towards an enemy at full speed and right before you're about to get hit, jump. Because what you essentially do is you jump a little bit, and then you get hit by the enemy, which will actually, depending on what character you're playing or where you get hit, the knockback will actually send you flying, in which case you can jump again. And I think the other one is it's just standing on the ground when you have 3 or 4 life and letting an enemy run into you, abusing invincibility frames, essentially. And something that's completely useless about the game, If you pause the game and then hold up B and A on the second player controller and unpause, you commit suicide. Don't quite get the point of that, but okay. Speaking of weird things like that, an interesting thing about this game in South Korea is that the Wii Virtual Console version uses the Super Mario USA Japanese version, but the 3DS version uses the version we're playing right now, which is weird. Also, you saw the mushroom in the previous area there before I entered the door. I believe in the NES version of the game, that mushroom is impossible to get, because the way you're supposed to get that is with the formula, walk left, jump on some clouds, and then super jump while holding the formula to get up to that platform and then just run across. However, I think in the 8-bit version of this game, you cannot super jump while you're carrying a formula. I think that was fixed in All-Stars and Advanced, but yeah, that's the thing you can't do there. And even then, I'm not even sure if that was fixed in All-Stars and Advanced for a fact, because honestly, I don't go back to play this game in those that much. Now, I of course mentioned multiple times at this point about Mario USA versus Mario Bros. 2, but something I actually have forgotten to mention at this point is the time span that took. You see, let's put it like this. Doki Doki Panic was released in, I want to say, 1987. I don't think Mario USA was released in Japan until 1991, which is quite the wait, to say the least. I'm assuming it had to do just with, like, maybe some copyright stuff, some rights stuff, and all that such. But right now, we actually have a boss fight. This is Fry Guy. Fry Guy is actually the hardest boss in the game. He moves around semi-randomly, just kind of working in a floating pattern, while occasionally, well, actually very often, dropping fireballs. You have to hit him in the head with, well, his entire body, rather, with the mushroom blocks 3 times, at which point Phase 2 begins. This is actually the only multi-phase boss fight in the game. Once you do that, he splits up into 4 mini Fry Guys. We just need to exterminate them. Their bouncing is actually really annoying, though, and hitting them is surprisingly hard. Though a notable glitch in one of the versions of this game is that when you destroy one of the mini Fry Guys, there's a chance that instead of puffing away in smoke like that, they'll do the usual enemy flip upside down and fall off the screen death animation, and the exit will not open due to that, meaning you'll be stuck in that level. So watch out for that. By the way, welcome to World 5, a world I actually used Peach through all of, but I actually did not mean to. I used her throughout all these levels, thinking this was World 6 for some reason, and not gonna lie, she was a good choice for level 1 here, but not the best for the other ones. Either way, an interesting thing is, similarly to Earthbound Beginning /0, there is actually a prototype cartridge of this game that was found and sold on eBay for, I think, $350 American dollars. The biggest differences were color palette stuff, some stuff that was left in that they just never implemented, like a end-of-game prize money thing, which would kind of be like your score system. Like, if you died either 0 times to 3, you'd get, like, 10 million, 4, 1 million, 5 to 9, 500,000, so on and so forth. Some characters had different sprites, like I think the princess in particular had a bit more hair to her. I have no idea how to get that mushroom, by the way. Other differences, like, I think some of the characters didn't have eyeballs and stuff. The magic potion /subspace formula was still the Doki Doki magic lamp in that version. And the B button didn't make you run yet. That was added in later. Also, the underground music was something closer to what we would later hear in Mario 3, which is weird. Either way, I know I'm about to hit it for the 3rd time, but these are the Gray Birdos. The Gray Birdos are the most annoying things in the game because they never shoot eggs. You have to use mushroom blocks or other things in order to damage them. They don't use them too much, but still, it's annoying. Notable, there is also a Green Birdo sprite that acts exactly the same, if I recall. Or are they the same as Red Birdos? I forget. I think it depends on the color palette of the stage. Either way, not a fan of Green Birdos, all the same. Now, seeing me get that one up reminds me. First off, I've forgotten to mention so far that this is one of those games where 0 counts as an extra life, so technically I have 14 lives right now, all things considered. But something I've also completely forgotten to touch on is that unlike Super Mario Bros. 1, Super Mario Bros. 2 actually has continues. If you get a game over in a level, you'll be sent to a game over screen that has continue or end. End sends you back to the title screen, but you have 2 continues at any time. That will start you back in that level. Now, I forget if 0 counts as a continue in that case. I think you just have the 2 continues if I'm recalling, but I only usually have to use 1 continue if even. But the annoying thing about continues is there's no way to get extra continues. So if you run out of those, you're done. You're back to the title screen now on Mario Bros. 1. Thankfully, this game still, if you're going for warp zones, is quick enough to the point where you don't need to worry about them. But at the same time, when you probably first played this game, you probably didn't know about the warp zones unless you just got extraordinarily curious or lucky. So, well, also, hi, Bob-ombs. It's interesting, though, to me, precisely, despite how this was not a Mario game at all to start, how much of an influence this had later in the series. Because so many enemies we know now for Mario started in this game through Doki Doki, and that's just funny to me. I guess it goes to show that something that was originally considered a spin-off of sorts can become completely, like, part of the main universe. Or get its own little respects. It's hard to phrase, but you know what I mean. Also, these spikes are not instant kill as you saw back in the previous 3rd level. They just really hurt, and by really hurt I mean they actually do damage. I know it's just because I'm a Mega Man player, but I always do flinch whenever I see spikes of any kind just because, God, I've had too many deaths. And this is what I mean about them getting pretty clever with their, clever and dickish rather, about their Birdo placements. You need to precisely be able to not fall into that pit. Admittedly, Peach makes that a bit easier given her slow pickup speed, but that can be problematic if you're like Toad. Though there is a trick I've never been consistently able to pull off, and that's that if you press your buttons in just the right order at the right time, it's possible to pick something up and then jump immediately, though I'm not sure if you start the jump before or after. I can only do it out of luck, basically. Aw, that's a sad jingle. And again, here's me picking Peach again, because I think I'm in World 6, but I'm not. World 5-3. Okay, it's this one. That, I believe, up there is actually the warp zone we just saw up there. I actually forget how you get up there, though. Just because I've never been able to consistently do it. I want to say you have to get the formula, which is somewhere towards the middle, and then jump on one of the albatross birds, and then just fly over. But I honestly forget. I think that's what you have to do. Sounds about right, given this game. Either way, I always remember this level in particular for another reason. It's one of the most windy levels in the game. You go right, then down, then left, then up, and all over the place. Which, mind you, I admire that they try to change things up with the level design in this game compared to like Mario Bros. 1, which was always right and do the thing. Also, a little unintentional shortcut here. You can abuse the collision mechanics to just kind of phase through that corner slowly. I actually do that all the time because I don't like this room. Because this is a return to something we've seen a couple times in the game. Pac-Man Super Mario Bros. Physics. Suddenly, I'm over here. Admittedly, it always takes me some time to remember that this game actually has these in the vertical sections like this. And I don't entirely know why, because it's not the only Mario game especially to do it. Mario 3 did it too during a few levels, but it's just personal psychology stuff. If I'm playing a Pac-Man game, I'll remember to do that easily, but Also, Peach gets to do that shortcut. I think Luigi can actually do that shortcut too, now that I think about it. And this is a bit of an odd 3rd level, because it has easily the most marathon section before its boss fight. Not only do we have to go through a level, a little enemy rush, as we've done a couple times before, but we also actually do have to fight a Birdo in this stage, which is, I think, the only time they have you do that, aside from maybe the final level. And admittedly, that makes dying here kind of painful, but Thankfully, they're kind enough to make it a red Birdo and not a gray Birdo, because, God, a gray Birdo in this instance would be awful. Though if I recall, speaking of gray Birdo, there was also a gray Shy Guy in the Doki Doki, but I don't remember what the special thing about that was. Either way, the boss of 5-3 is Clawgrip, this crab. The way this boss works is that you have to catch the rocks it throws at you and throw it back at him. We've seen this kind of thing before, haven't we? Notable though, this boss is actually exclusive to Mario Bros. 2. In Doki Doki Panic, you fought a third Mouser who I think had even more HP here. Thankfully, they decided to introduce a boss here for the Americans, just because really 2 Mousers is enough if even. And that makes an interesting thing, because that means every subsequent version of Doki Doki Panic, one way or another, introduced a boss fight, excluding the original All-Stars release, because that was an advance and thus didn't have Robo-Birdo. Who I also frequently call Robo-Birdo, I admit. But yeah, that's Clawgrip. Nothing too... Clawgrip, rather. Clawgrip is the manual mistranslation. Nothing too bad, but fun enough, I suppose. Probably my favorite boss in the game, honestly. Either way, World 6 is the one I meant to bring Peach in instead of World 5, so because of this, she gets played a bit more than others. If I had to choose other characters I would have played in World 5, probably it would have been, again, either Luigi twice or Mario and Luigi. Probably not Mario twice, though, because Luigi would definitely be more useful for World 5-3 over 5-2. No matter the instance. You're loving your pokies there, huh? Oh boy. Get out of there. It's also around this point that the game actually really starts to get pretty hard. Because for like the first 2 or 3 worlds, this game isn't too bad, but World 4 onwards, the game actually really does grow in difficulty quite a bit. This level, though, is pretty short. Most of it is actually just you checking the pots in the previous room, trying to find the key, the area that has the Phantos key in the... though I only go into the 2 I need because I want that extra life I just got, and I also just want the key. Other ones do have things like the Koopa shells, and I think maybe some ways, some enemies to kill for easy hearts, but I'm only going for what I need. More or less, at least. Toad could have come in handy for this level, I admit, just due to how much sand you have to dig up, but... Peach just is really good for going over desert levels, honestly, because in the desert levels more than anything, the snake enemies really love to show up, and I just have a lot of trouble dodging them. I don't know exactly what it is, I just do. Mind you, I admit, compared to some other Mario games, quote-unquote Mario games, in this game's case, admittedly, I am not the best at avoiding hits. I can be very reckless at times, which can cause my downfall very often. Although seeing Phanto like that reminds me, something that Doki Doki didn't do is that the Phantos actually weren't in the room with the key. They added the masks in like that to USA, I believe, just so you wouldn't be too surprised when it suddenly shows up in the level. Here's the green Birdo. And yeah, it's a red one. Okay, no, a gray one rather. Okay, good, I remember that correctly. Yeah, I guess it would be due to color palette reasons, because I can't really see any other place they could use gray on the screen right now. Oh well. And now it's time for stage 6-2 rather, which is a level that I do not like that much.